This is good. I'm good.
Okay, we're live. Peace and blessings, family. As I said, I will be back interviewing people who are running for offices in our city. And tonight I am so honored to be joined by Miss Ramona Landeros.
Landeros, very good.
Bam, I'll start with that accent. I have to call some of my Cuban friends like, am I saying this wrong? I said, you got to roll them R's. I'm not always good at rolling the R's. But first of all, thank you for coming and sit down and talk with me about your run for City Council District 2.
Yes, and it's an honor to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. What made you run? I just go right into it. What made you run?
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I've been in the community 40 years, and that's a long time. My children, my grandchildren are born there, but more importantly, that's my community. Right. And what happens is my community affects me, it affects all of us. And just throughout the years, there's not been what we needed to get done in our community. We have much to do. There's lots to do. There's roads that need to be fixed. We have a very high population of people experiencing homelessness, including many of our students at Twin Rivers. So all these problems that have existed, and after seeing this last 2 terms of our council, I just think that, there's nobody really advocating on a really hard level the way I think it should be. I think we need to have a real strong voice, a social justice advocate like I've been for 40 years. So I think it's time. It's a women's year.
I know.
I'm ready for that.
So, with that being said, tell me some about your 40 years. What are some of the things you've done over the 40 years so people can hear a little bit about your history?
Sure. So, I was very involved with the Shelter for Battered Women, WEAVE, when it first started. So, I was one of the original women that were helping out. When we were still sleeping women on the floor, we understand that domestic violence is a big issue and probably continues to be in our communities. And then I went to college, Sac State, and I founded the Multicultural Center at Sac State. And that was a very big deal because universities from other parts of California were visiting Sac State and saying, hey, how did you do it? What did you do? And so I was very, very involved as a student. And then I also was heavily involved in making sure that the CSU level throughout the state of California recognize Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day.
Right on.
So I'm one of the founders, the co-founders of that holiday for the CSU system, which still exists today. And I started reading literacy programs at the elementary schools, and I was just a mom, and I've just been involved in many, many causes. I don't know if folks that are listening that are from the North area would remember, but we had Norm's Liquor at one time. Right there on Marysville Boulevard, right behind the high school, and we forever were rallying the city council. Why do we have a liquor store behind the high school? One day, my kids are out there collecting their uniform, and those folks that were there back in probably, I think it was 89, 90, one of our coaches got shot in front of our kids because a fight broke out at Norm's Liquor, and we didn't have any fences around the high school, so a lot of that happened. So I got very involved in making sure that, number one, the fence went up, but two, that we never have another liquor store in our community.
Right on.
And so that, I think when you see that, when that happens, as you know, in our area, we have a lot of shootings. We've had multiple throughout this year. That's a real concern to me, but those are the things that I've really worked on, is like, how can we prevent gun violence? What can we do? Are we doing enough? We're not doing enough. We need much more resources, many more programs in our community to help guide our youth, guide our kids.
So if you were elected to the city council, what would you do to address the homeless issue?
I certainly don't want to see them in tents, okay? I think that we can do better than that. I know that there's affordable housing units that can be built within no time. We're not talking about the developers coming in and building apartments and give me only 30% of the, for the low income. I think that we have to think outside the box and really see what are other communities doing that are solving the problem, or that at least making a dent in the problem. Not to say we're going to solve all the issues immediately, but there is other things we can do. We can't wait for developers to come in and build apartments and housing. We have to take a different approach, and I just think there's other, I know Steve Hansen just came out with a solution today. It's a different type of housing, which is also not building, but they're permanent structures, but there's other ways that we can do that. But we can't wait to have like I said, all the development coming through. So the city has to do better on that. And we're not getting the resources that we need to help take the load, because we're getting a lot of folks that are living in the streets. They're bringing, from what I'm hearing, they're bringing them in from other areas and pretty much bringing them to the Del Paso Heights community.
What about education?
Education, that's...
How is the Twin River District doing, and what can you do
the Twin Rivers District, we have some schools that are really, really, blue ribbons that are doing very well. We do have an issue right now where there's potential closures. I'm not for closing schools. I don't think that our community needs that. In fact, a lot of times it's communities of color, low-income communities where that happens. And so historically, if you look back, that's what's happened in other communities. I'm not about that. I think what we need is stronger programs in our schools. I want to give you an example. We have one elementary school that has a very innovative approach to suspensions, to kids' behavior. And what they've done is they've brought in mentors, and these mentors are mentoring, like, you take 50, you take 50, and so everybody's responsible for that child, a check-in. So let me give you an example. We have 25 students, okay, that take 80% of the teacher, her time. 25 students, not percent, 25 students take 80% of the teacher's time. So what they've done, because last year they had over 150 suspensions a year.
Okay.
By this time last year, they would have had about 60. Right now they have under 10. So we have a very strong wellness program that has been implemented into that school. So I'm hoping that we really can begin to use that model at other schools, because I think a lot of times we over-suspend. The way we over-police communities, we over-suspend our students. And so not only is the child not doing nothing with their home, learning's not taking place. And who knows what they're going home to, or why are they even going home, right? And so I'm really big about, hey, let's think of innovative ways to get these kids to really engage them and become, like we say, gang of excellence instead of a gang of, of the street. So yeah, so that's a model that I really am pushing hard on to get out to other schools and hopefully, other districts.
So what is the benefit for ACBA, for a ABCA, and who are supposed to give?
So a community benefits agreement. Community benefits agreement are something that we have not seen in our community. And what they are is, these are developers and other businesses like the Walmarts or other companies. When you come into a community, what the community needs to dictate and say, okay, you're going to come in and make millions off of our people. We want a percentage back, because what happens, that percentage of the money then goes to small nonprofits and to other organizations that are working in the community. And who better to have on board and to give you the okay is the community, right?
Right on.
And so this is a good way to show goodwill, but also that you're willing to work with your community. And it also helps communities, small businesses that really need the help. Because we have small businesses that are literally dying on the vine because they have not received the support or the resources or the money that they need. It's a shame, because we see so many of these small businesses losing all their savings that they put into their businesses, and now they're losing. If we would have had CBAs in place in the first place, we would not have these issues. And so, yeah, this is a way to save small businesses and to make communities thrive, help communities thrive. They're the backbone of communities, our small businesses.
So how do you feel about the marijuana dispensaries? Because we have this thing where now marijuana is legal, I guess, in some instances. It seems like your community has more than other communities, maybe combined. I'm not sure.
Let me tell you.
Talk to me about that.
Probably combined.
Okay.
We have, I believe, we're up to 26 now. I know that our neighboring district has 0. So I don't know.
Who's your neighboring district?
Natomas.
Natomas. Okay.
So I know that I'm not in favor of having so many. I think we need to have a cap on them. There needs to be a cap. And I just, as of recently, I believe now they're talking about it, but we have almost 26, and many of them are
26 in your area?
In our area, yes. And how it got that way, I couldn't tell you, but I can tell you this, is that's not okay. And if other communities are saying no, why are we getting all of it? Why are we getting the majority of them? I know that there's another area, I couldn't tell you which one, but they also have a high amount of them. But I think disproportionately we have way too many, and we need to have a cap. I'm not against them, but we need to have a cap.
Okay. Does that impact young people since where your schools are, you know?
Well, it's kind of like having that liquor store by a high school. It's just going to encourage kids who, you know, want to drink. And so I think that, yeah, it does impact. Absolutely. I think that's part of the plan, right? Is you want to have that product, and so kids are going to want to use it. I know that it's come to the point now where people are pretty much just very open with it because it is legal. What I do have a problem with is when a child gets off the car and goes to class and he's smelling, and the parents are smoking in the car. That's a problem for me.
I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. So let me ask you, even though I understand it about the dispensaries, will those finances or resources be circulated back into your community to help people with housing and, you know, civic stuff, resources, any of that
That was
kind
the
of stuff?
original plan.
Okay.
That was the original plan. From what I understand, it still hasn't happened. I don't know where the holdup is, but I imagine that is part of. It's kind of like the CBA, only we haven't seen it yet. So.
Okay. What about more development in terms of home ownership in your area?
You know, I think we need to have more incentives for home ownership. And one of the things that I was thinking, I know how hard it is for families to get. Many of them are one-parent families. How hard it is to get a loan, right? And so I was thinking, well, why not? If you've been a renter for 5 years or 10 years or whatever the case may be, why not use that as part of your financial eligibility for mortgage companies to look at that and say, well, okay, that should be part of, we should look at that as you've got payment history. And so not make it so hard for families to buy a home. You know, right now, to be real honest with you, I've been seeing a lot of $400,000 homes in our community. And this is a community that's basically, we have very low wealth in our communities. And so I can't see where any of our families are even going to be able to get into those homes and afford them. And, you know, we need to have more down payment assistance for families. We need to have, and the folks that are living in their homes now, help them save their homes. There's many folks that I've known for the last 40 years, many that have lost their homes. And that's just, it's to me, it's a crime. It's criminal that people, because we are seeing gentrification in our community. It's very real.
What does Area 2 cover, and what are some of the schools that may be affected with these closures?
Well, we're talking about Fairbanks, which is in the, what
Fairbanks.
we call, right. We're talking Noralto, MLK, Babcock, Woodlake, about 6 of them in our area.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
What does District 2 cover?
It covers all the way up, almost close to the mall, all of the Woodlake area, and then we go all the way into Robla, and then we border right there on Northgate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Winters. So
Okay.
it's a good sized district.
Okay.
It is.
Why should people vote for you?
You know, I don't think I know that I can do the job. I have proven that I am one of those type of women, Apache women, Latina woman, that will roll up her sleeves and get the job done. I'm not afraid to advocate for my community. If I don't know something, I'm going to learn it. I really have my intention and my heart is with my community. I've been there a long time, and I just think it's time.
Are you union friendly?
I am.
Okay. What's the benefits of having a union?
You know, we need to have folks earning livable wages. You know, I think it's when you're earning $11 an hour, how are you really going to support your family? And I think the unions have been instrumental in creating livable wages and having, you know, you have young men that are coming out. Let's talk prison for a second. You know, a lot of the youngsters that come out of prison, many do come out with a GED or a high school diploma. They can immediately go to the unions and get $30 an hour jobs. That's real money for our young men and women. And so unions may have paved that path for people to be able to support their families and live a decent life. And that's all we want, is our families to be able to have something, to have something to survive on, get off the system, because it's a system that the welfare system, I don't know what they call it nowadays, that's not a way for our families to live. And so, it all works hand in hand with wanting to buy a home, but having a job that pays, right? And having the right trainings, and, do we have enough training centers in our community? And there's all those needs that we have. And I know what they are. I've been there a long time. Consistently, I've never left my community. And so I just think it's time.
Do you have any plans around mental health?
Yes. I learned a really interesting statistic. The police department, 75% of their calls are for mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the police budget is very large. So so my way of thinking is like, okay, if we have that much money going for a police officer to respond to a mental health issue, then we really need to relook at this, and how are we going to address it? It has to be taken head on, and that's probably a majority of the issues of many folks that are experiencing homelessness is mental health issues.
What is the makeup of your district?
In terms of demographics, I know we have 18% African American, about 16-17% Asian, and that includes Hmong, Lao, Min, 38% Latino, and then I think Native American. I think our family makes up like 2% of that. Then the rest is other.
Yeah. Y'all don't have any white people in your district?
Yeah, we do. That's the other.
Okay, that's a switch.
But it's becoming more families are moving into our area.
So when you're running for office like that, how do you get all of the communities to understand that you're going to do your job and make sure you're fair to everybody across the board?
Well, I think by with my background and if you've seen what I've done, you're going to know that I have been very, very equitable. It's been about kids. It's been about our community. Like I'm working on air quality right now. We have one of the worst air qualities in our district. The air that we breathe is not just going to be for the natives, right? It's going to be for all folks.
That's right.
Education, suspensions, it affects all children. So when I got voted in as a trustee, I said I will always vote my conscience, and it's for the kids. Always about the kids. Never. It was not about special interests. It was about the kids, all kids.
Okay. How will you be transparent about the police department? Because that's a major thing.
It is a major thing, and I know that we have to do better. We have to do better. I like the idea of the body counts, but I also like the idea that the video has to be released whenever there's a shooting. Release it as soon as we can. I think that we also have to have. I'd like to see what Joe Cerna, the late mayor, way back when he had police officers on the ground, right?
Right on,
feet
walking
on
that
the street.
beat.
Yeah,
that's really good. If you win, what's the first thing you would want to do?
I'm going to go to my community and say, where can we prioritize? Because it has to come from you, the constituents, right? I'm just a public servant. You have to tell me, what is it that you need? I can tell you what I think you need, but I need my community to tell me what is the first things on the list of priorities.
Right on. One of the comments says, officers trained in mental health services will go a long way in decreasing violence responses to residents with mental health issues. What's your thoughts?
On
mental health services, like officers being trained in that area in particular.
I know that they have one social worker that's on call, from what I believe, and I just think that's there's something wrong with that equation, right? And I think there has to be training in mental health. I know they already do some, but I think that we'd have to relook at that, at how that really looks, because if you're telling me as police officers that 75% of your calls are mental health, then we need to relook at that. So,
how do you think you'll work with the other city council members if you're elected?
I'm probably one of the easiest persons to work with, but don't get me wrong, because I'm relentless when it comes to my community and fighting for what is right.
Okay. Okay. So with that being said, how can you empower more of your community in your district to be involved in this process?
The way people get involved is that when they believe in you, when they've seen you work, when they've seen you out there, when they've seen you walk in those streets, when they've seen you when there's a shooting and you show up, Whenever there's, an issue, a big crisis in our community, you show up. When you say, hey, I'm going to get this done for this school, and you do it, that's how you can get people engaged and involved, because they believe in you, because they see the work you do. Just recently, last year, I started what's called Christmas in the Park. And let me just give you that as an example. It's a free 2-day event. And the reason I thought it was really important is because we have, the holidays can bring joy or it can bring sadness to some people, let's just be honest. And we have Winter Wonderland, which costs an arm and a leg for many of our families can't afford to take their kids there. So I said, why not do something in our community we need something. And so I brought together 5 neighborhood associations, all different walks of life, that we were able to come together under one common cause, and that was to bring holiday cheer and joy to the community. And so it worked out so well that we're doing it again this year at the Robertson Center. So that's how I'm able to reach across the table and work with everyone. So I think that's one of my talents that I have, that I take pride in.
So right now you're currently on a board of trustees, right?
Correct.
For Twin Rivers? For
Twin Rivers.
What does that entail, and how was some of that you would bring to the table, those experiences you would bring to the table if you're elected?
Well, when there's 7 of us, and so we're the ones that make the decisions, make the votes, and so it's about talking with each one of them. And sometimes you don't always agree, and sometimes you may really disagree, but that's okay. The whole point is you got to get your point across, and if my selling point is strong and say, hey, look, I really don't think this is the right move, then I'm able to work with folks that way. But it's also given me budget experience, so I understand budgets. It's a big deal too, and you have to know budgets. And so I think when we're talking about a race, it's really about economics, right? It's really about economics. It's not about color, it's about economics, and it's about those that have and don't have. And so I want our community to have.
So I guess last night they passed to put on the ballot the Kids First, I guess?
Yes.
What was your thoughts on that?
Well, I worked very hard on that, actually. I think that that was a percentage that was going to come out of the budget, the general fund, which is we're not asking for an extra tax. We're just saying put money back into our youth. And I'm a strong believer and a supporter of that. And so I actually was out there helping get signatures to get it on the ballot for next year.
I know, that's a good thing. I want you to look right into that camera right there and tell folks why they should vote for you.
Well, I think after the discussion that we've had and my work that I've done in the community, my 40 years of working for all community, not just some, and I've really shown what my abilities are, but more importantly, my heart and my passion and my compassion for my community. I don't want to see any more people sleeping on the streets. I think that's just really, really a disgrace that we, as the wealthiest nation in the world, have people sleeping on sidewalks, sleeping under trees. So that's one of my big priorities, and I know the community will probably agree with me on that. So, I don't have any interest other than to make my community better. I'm not a business owner. I'm just a hard-working mother, grandmother of the North Sacramento community, and I will roll my sleeves up and get the job done. That I will tell you I can do and will do. So, thank you.
Okay, so if people want to contact you, they want to volunteer for your campaign, where do they go?
We have a website, and the website is Vote Landeros.
Okay, Vote Landeros?
Vote Landeros, 2020.com. And we also have offices on Rio Linda Boulevard, 3427 Rio Linda Boulevard, right there in North Sacramento, 95838. And we are there Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and then pretty much every day after work. So if anybody wants to help out, wants to come learn more about what we're doing, please show up. We walk on Saturdays, so if anybody's interested in walking or learning how to walk a campaign, how to learn about a campaign, how to get involved, how to become engaged, we really encourage you to come out, because you may be the next person running for city council or school board. We need our folks to come out. And we also have a Facebook page. So, Ramona Landeros for city council. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Well,
thank you for
a
coming
pleasure.
in.
No,
And I'll have you back because we're going to do a roundtable forum.
Okay.
And I want you to come and talk directly to the people of your district. So it'll be you, and Alan and y'all basically will talk directly to your constituents. Because I feel like the
I
best
can do
person
that.
for the job
That's it.
is the people tell you who the best person for
That's
the job,
right.
not, you know, like,
Right, that's
we're going
right.
to handpick you. No, they going to handpick you.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for coming
No, thank you very much.
Okay,
It's a
thank
pleasure.
you. All right, family, I'll see y'all tomorrow night with Councilman Warren. Peace.